Welcome to the weekly Pacent test video. On this next screen, you're going to see all of the start times of the problems, so you can just fast forward to the problems that you want to look at. All right, here we come with this week's video. Okay, here we go for the week 18 test. And we start out with an area problem, area of circles. So Tom is shopping for stones. He's going to make a pathway through his garden. He wants to use two different sizes. Some are 100 to 115 square inches. Others are 300 to 315 square inches. And let me go in really quick before we get too far into this. This was the typo from the author of the test. So which stones have an area between 100 and 115? Well, we talked about the easiest thing to do is figure out all the stones first, and then go back and see which ones fit. In each case, they're giving us the diameter of the stone all the way across. When you see that, they're saying the complete distance across is that amount. Well, we know that the area formula, and you have the area formula right up here, the area formula uses radius, pi times the radius squared. Again, something you get in the habit of is write out what that means. That means 3.14, because they tell us 3.14 for pi, times the radius, times the radius. So radius squared, we have to make sure we remember it's not times 2, it's times itself. So we started out, and we put the radius for each of these. If the diameter is 8, the radius is 4. The diameter is 12, the radius is 6. Diameter is 16, radius is half of that, 8. Remember, radius is this distance from the center out. So if the whole thing is 16, that would be an 8. Here the radius would be 10. From the center, doesn't matter what direction, center out would be 10. Here, going up, center out would be 6. So then we went through and we figured out each of the stones. Here's stone A, 3.14 times the radius, 4 squared. 4 squared is 16, 3.14 times 16, 50.24 inches squared. And we did that for each of the stones. So we got down to D. Here we go, D, the radius was 10, so we have 3.14 times 10 squared, which is 3.14 times 100, or 314. Then we matched and saw which ones work. 50.24, that's not between 100 and 150. Remember, one of the things we talked about, give myself a little space right here. We talked about thinking of this as a number line. Here is 100. Here's 115. Let's jump all the way out here and make that 200. Let's keep going, make that 300. 315. And then we're looking at which ones fit in between. Well, stone A would be out here. So since stone A has an area of 50.24, that's less than 100. Stone B, that's between 100 and 115. It works. Stone C at 200.96, that's in this area between 2 and 300. Stone D at 314, that's in that area between 300 and 315. So A, stone B works. For part B, stone D works. All right, let's take a look at 18.2, circumference. So Matthias built a custom bicycle, and his bicycle has the front tire with a diameter of 20. So here's the front tire, diameter all the way across, all the way through the center, diameter of 20. And the back tire has a radius of 30. So drawing these tires really helps. Get the diagram going here. It's really, brilliant mathematicians, high-end mathematicians use diagrams. It helps them visualize what they're doing. Once we do that, we plug it into our formula for circumference. Here's the circumference formula. 2 times pi times radius. If the diameter is given, you can do pi times the diameter, because that's what 2 times radius equals. Keep that in mind. If you have 2 times the radius, that's equal to the diameter. Radius halfway across, diameter all the way across. So his front tire has a circumference, because we're figuring circumference now, of 62.8. His rear tire, a circumference of 188.4. And then the question is, how many times will the front tire go around for each time the back tire turns? So then the question is, how many times will the front tire rotate for every one time the back tire rotates? So there's our ground. Here's what our tires look like. Remember, our front tire, 62.8. Our back tire, 188.4. So we can already see our back tire, because it's bigger, when the bike travels a certain distance, the back tire is going to go around less. And in fact, in one rotation of the back tire, that front tire will have rotated 3 times. The way we calculate that is we divide the back tire by the front tire. We can see there are 3 rotations. All right, we'll be discussing this kind of problem more. This is something you really have to work at visualizing. We'll talk about it more as we go. On to problem number 3. 3 is one of these problems where we have to change the percentage right here, change the percentage into both a decimal and a fraction. So we do that with both. Here's the 40% changed into both a decimal and a fraction. And then we match up which fit. So 0.125 times 640, yep, 0.125 right up here, times 640. 0.4, yep, 0.4 times 750. So B works. C also, the fraction form, those both work. A does not, 12.5 has to be 0.125, so that's why that doesn't work. And as we discussed in Class D, we have no idea where the 1/4 came from. Maybe somebody thinks that's what 40% is. In this case, the question is, what is the total amount of lawn? And we can see that every one of these was an addition problem, so we put that together. We get 380 square meters of lawn will be fertilized. All right, finally, our tip question. So Jackie the waitress, she earns tips. She turns around and pays the busboys from her tips. Why? Because she knows if they do a good job and they get tables cleaned off faster, she can get more customers seated. More customers mean more sales mean more tips for her. So here are our facts. On Saturday night, Jackie had sales of $1,300. Those were her total sales. And she averaged an 18% tip, which we immediately turned into a decimal. So let's just do this line by line. So here's the first line. Here's part 1. Here's figuring out what Jackie earned. 1,300 times the 18%, she earned $234 in tips. She tips out the busboys 2% of her tip earnings, not of the 1,300, but of her part. So each busboy gets 2% of her $234. That's $234 times 2%. That's $4.68 per busboy. And since she tipped 3 busboys, we take the $4.68 times the 3 busboys. We get 1,000 busboys. Wish it was 1,000. We get $14.04 total that Jackie paid out. And then there's the work for the bonus problem. That's one of our interest problems. Most common wrong answer was A, where people just figured out the interest for 1 year, or D, where they took the interest, they got the $176.25, but they added it back to the $2,350. And somebody says, well, I did that because that's what some of the problems looked like we did in class. And that's true. We did do problems like that in class. This is a great reminder. You have to read the problems carefully. These math problems are almost as much about reading as they are about doing math. Okay, so there's week 18's test. Be sure you review it with your own test, and then if you have questions, bring them to me. We can discuss them in class. We can discuss them at SSR. We will definitely find time to answer your questions.